Hey everybody, JR from JR's Cars here. And with the nose up in the air, we're working on the Sonata finally. So stay tuned. Alright everybody, the time has come. I'm not playing around anymore. I need a car, and the state of New Jersey has closed motor vehicle for the pandemic here, and they have not given a date of reopen. So I can't get a vehicle, I can't title a vehicle, I can't register a vehicle, I can't do anything, but I damn well need a car. So I'm gonna see what I can do with this one. It's been sitting back here for, God, almost a month and a half, 2 months now, so she's pretty sad, she's dirty. It's pollen season, so she's got crap all over her. And of course it's underneath a tree too, so I'm sure the birds have had their way with the car too. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to get underneath the car. I'm going to show you a couple things. What I'm going to do to start taking this bottom end of the engine apart and seeing if we could see which rod was causing the issue. And we're going to try to get this thing fixed, because Hyundai sure as hell isn't going to do anything for me. So without further ado, let's get at this. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get the shield off this bottom panel. And Hyundai, in their wonderful splendor, has all kinds of different screws, nuts, bolts to take these splash shields off. So just this one panel here, let's see if I can get it there. You see this bumper here, this panel needs to come off, and it's got a bolt here, screw head pop clips here in the center, then a bolt on the end over there too. That comes off. Then behind that you have bolts here, bolts here, bolts here, screws here. It's just a hodgepodge of all kinds of different screws and bolts. So take all them off and this whole panel will come off. Then that'll give us access to the bottom end of the engine. One other thing to note, because I found out the hard way, is if you're underneath this car, you better get ready to eat dirt and salt and whatever else is underneath that car, because as soon as those covers start coming down, all that stuff's going to get in your face. So I would suggest putting a face shield on when you're underneath the car, because that'll help keep that crap out of your face. Otherwise, just try to do it and try to stay off to the side, because there's absolutely going to be stuff coming out at you. One thing I like to do here when I'm taking things apart is just grab some regular, lunch baggies, things like that. And either you can mark on the outside of the baggie with a Sharpie marker, or you can take pieces of paper and shove them on the inside. This is for the bolts. So anything that you take out, put in one of these baggies and then put with whatever it is that you're taking apart. That way, when you put it back together, you have all the screws that you needed. Okay, so now that all those covers are out of the way, we can get a better look underneath there and see what else we have to move to get to the oil pan. One thing to note is you see this bracket right over here. That is that attaches right here. Then it goes down the center and attaches right in the back over there. And there's one over here too that you'll just have to remove. Okay, so there's 10 millimeter bolt there, 10 millimeter bolt here. That'll move that out of the way. So what I'm seeing, aside from a seeping pan gasket here, it looks like, is the only thing that we really need to move, because there's nothing in the back. I already looked there. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to remove this bracket, which we have 2 bolts here. This is for the AC compressor. So the 2 bolts here are through bolts that go to the bracket, and then the bracket attaches to the oil pan. So we can remove those bolts, and then we can actually get to the oil pan. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drain the oil out. and then we're going to remove the oil filter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the oil filter off to the side. I'm going to try to keep as much oil in it as possible, because I want to crack that open and I want to look at how much stuff is trapped in that oil filter media. And I'll show that on camera too when I crack that thing open. All right, so I'm gonna let the oil drain out, get the filter off, and then we're gonna move on. Okay, so I got that drain plug loose, and I'm gonna drain the oil and see if we could see what this oil looks like when it comes out. You can see the shavings in it. Look at that. Although at the end it doesn't look too bad. You can kind of see it here. Doesn't really look like there's a whole lot on there. You can see some there. All right, so we'll let this drain out. I'm going to take the oil filter off, and then we'll take a look on the inside of that too, and then we'll try to start getting this pan free. Okay, so now I got the oil filter off, and I got that bracket off for the AC compressor. If you look underneath here, you see those two bolts right there? They're different size than all the other ones that are around it. The ones that are on the pan are 10 millimeter, and those two right there you can get with a 12 millimeter 12-point socket. So those are loose. I'm going to get everything else loosened up. Then we're going to take that pan off. Okay, everybody, so the pan is finally off. Took a little doing because the silicone seal that they have on there really grips in there, so you really have to just work it back and forth until you can finally get this to release and break free. And what I'm looking at, I don't know how good this is really going to come out on camera, but I'm not really seeing much in the way of large pieces. I'm not seeing, I mean, there's really fine, let's see, for focus there. See that just right on the tip of my finger here, and I don't mean to be giving you the middle finger here, but that's what it is. There's really not much. You can see that right there, right where the end of my my thumb is. There's just very fine little shavings. I mean, going down to this right in here, it's pretty much where I'm seeing the most of it, which would make sense. That's the bottom of the pan, and honestly, like I said, I haven't driven or even started this car for that matter in like a month and a half, almost 2 months now. That's pretty much all I'm seeing. I'm not seeing any big chunks or anything worth really noting. I mean, there's a lot of fine shavings in the bottom of the pan here. You can see that. But I'm having to really work to get those out. You can see there's a chunk. See, that's what I'm seeing, is just those little fine shavings like that. So, with that being said, I'll show you the inside of the engine and what it's going to take to get this, to get at the bearings here. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the bottom of the engine. This is with the pan off, so now you can actually see what it looks like. This whole assembly right here, this whole assembly is the oil pump. This thing is massive, it's crazy. So basically what you're going to have to do is relieve these are the tensioners for the chain that drives the oil pump. If you look in there, you can see up in there, right? And see how the chain is attached. All right, so basically what you're going to have to do is take that bolt out, which is an odd bolt. I don't know. There's got to be a special tool for that, or I don't know. There's got to be some way of getting that off there. There might be a special tool that you could purchase to get that off, or I might have something that would work possibly. I'd have to take a look and see if it would actually work. But basically what you would do is you would take that bolt off, well, relieve the pressure on the timing, not the timing chain, but the oil pump chain. Remove that bolt, and then there's 6 bolts here. There's one here, one there, one there, one there, one there, and I believe this one here too. And that whole assembly should drop down. That whole oil pump should come out, and then you would be able to see the crank and the rods and the bearings, and you could kind of take it from there and see what it looks like. The bottom of the pan doesn't look horrible. It obviously is a little concerning seeing all that material in there, but at least there's no big chunks, and there's definitely no aluminum or metal chunks in it. It looks like it's all just copper bushings. So we might actually luck out on this one and be able to just replace the bearings, polish the journals, and give it a go and see if it'll work. Okay, well that didn't go how I really wanted it to, but as you can see by all the bolts coming out and the oil pump in the pan, it is out. Basically, what I ended up doing was taking the bolts out of it, and I'm just leaving it in there because it's fine leaving it there. And basically what I did was I just took I loosened up the bolts. The pump started coming down, and then I was able to just slide the chain off of the sprocket here. The problem is this thing, I don't know how tight this is on there, but wow, this thing is not coming off at all. So oil pumps out, and that's what we have left. So what I'm going to do, or what I already did, if you follow me up here, was I took the coils out, I took the plugs out, so that way I can spin the engine over easier, because obviously if you have the plugs in, you're going to get compression. Now I'm going to take and spin it to see if I can get to the number 1, because what I've been reading is that the number 1 cylinder, which is this cylinder over here, seems to be the culprit pretty much every time one of these rods go bad. So I'm going to see how easy it is to get to it, but I think what I'm going to do is we'll see what it looks like, and then we'll save it for another day, because if that's the case, I'm going to have to purchase bearings, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get here, and today is Sunday, so work starts back up tomorrow, so let's take a look and see what we got. Oh yeah, well, number 1 is definitely our problem. I don't know if you could see that, but you could see the discoloration there. And look at that. So number 1 is definitely our problem. I'm going to take these off. I'm going to take this rod cap off, and we'll take a look at the bearings, and that's where I'm going to leave this video for today. Well, there's the culprit. You can see it right there. That bearing has spun. So you can see and hear all the scoring. It actually really doesn't feel that bad, and I'll take you down to the bottom side of the engine. You could see that the the mating surface on the actual crank really doesn't feel all scored up. I should be able to get that with, you know, some like 800,000 grit sandpaper and smooth it out. That really doesn't concern me all that much. But look at this here. Like, you could see, look at how much that bearing is missing. All right, so you can see on the back side here, if you take a look, put it here, you can see on the back side how you could see all the scoring. I mean, it's smooth. It's not that it's scored, but it's definitely spun. This bearing has spun. And then you can see in here too. Again, it doesn't feel scored. It feels smooth, but you could definitely tell that bearing, because that bearing was spinning, because you could see the line, the markings here. On the back side of the bearings here, where they're supposed to be tangs, which basically will clip into this here on the actual rod cap. There's nothing left. It's all gone. So I'll show you what it looks like on the bottom side. Okay, so if you take a look, this is the crank right here. It really doesn't feel scored at all. If anything, it's just got a minor little texture to it. But everything else looks okay. You know, I should be able to clean this up pretty good. We'll get the other side of the bearing out. We'll push the piston up. We'll pull that other portion of the bearing out. So now what it looks like is I'm going to have to order some bearings. I'm going to order some plastic gauge so I can make sure that the tolerances are within specs. I'm going to order a pan gasket. Then obviously oil and filter. We'll take a look at this. I'll repair this one, and then what I'll do is I'll look at the others and make sure that they're not as bad as this one, and then replace whichever ones are needed to be replaced. Then we'll give it a whirl. We'll see what happens. But number one, that was the problem, and that's where that knocking was. You can take a listen to it right here. All right, everyone, so this is where I'm going to end the video for today. So it's getting too late in the day. I really can't do too much more. I'm going to have to order the parts anyway, so we still have a little bit of work to do. So as you can see in the video, definitely number one cylinder is the problem. I'm interested in seeing if the other ones are just as bad as this one, or if they don't make any noise at all. If they're you know, okay, then I might just replace the bearings anyway, just for the hell of it. Make sure, being that I'm in there, I might as well do it. But this is going to get fixed. And you guys are going to be on the ride for that. So do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video when we're doing more work on the Sonata on part 2. Have a good one, guys.